Hey friends, today we're going to talk about how you can know if you're creating a safe, secure bond with your spouse and children, and what happens when you don't. If you didn't grow up with safety and security in your own early childhood, today you're going to learn some healing tips so you don't unknowingly pass on that generational dysfunction. Do you want some simple, bite-sized ways to increase connection and secure that bond with your family members? Well, today you're going to get exactly that so that you can build that greater family fulfillment and become your higher selves within your family. Hey parents, welcome to Fulfillment Therapy. Do you want to raise your kids better and have a stronger marriage? Are you up late at night researching marriage and parenting tools and self-care tips? Do you start each day hoping for deeper connections and less chaos, but it ends with family arguments and going 12 different directions again? My name's Kendra, wife, mom, therapist, and growth enthusiast. It wasn't until I discovered how to fulfill my unmet needs that I was finally able to show up as my best self as a spouse and parent. I realized that by meeting my needs, I could more fully meet the needs of my family with more energy and less resentment. In this podcast, I teach parents skills like boundary setting, prioritizing personal needs, communication, and claiming ownership. Just like my clients, you'll be shocked by the improvement in your marriage, parenting, and personal life when you focus on fulfilling your important, unmet needs. Ready to prioritize yourself so you can quit mentally throat punching people? Then grab those earbuds and head outside, and let's walk and talk. Hey friends, and welcome back to today's episode number 115. Are you building a safe, secure bond with your spouse and children? I often think about that, but I might be a nerd in that regard because I am very much into mental health and wellness. But the more that I work with my clients, the more I realize how foundational this is. I've mentioned aspects of this before in previous episodes, but this is one of those things with how much it's coming up in counseling with my clients. It reminds me how imperative it is that people understand what this is and why it's so important. Just a quick reminder first that we are releasing so many incredible things. We're introducing a new blog that is on fulfillmenttherapy.org. And we are rolling out a lot of other things like courses, accountability groups, Pinterest ads, so many things. Like we are having massive, rapid growth because of my new amazing team. I currently have 5, maybe more, that just onboarded with me and are part of the Fulfillment Therapy team. And I will have some of them on future episodes so you can get to know them. And I am just so grateful for their help and their support with fulfillment therapy so that we can collectively spread those positive ripples. And I truly am grateful for their help. So if you want to see all the things that we're doing, go check it out on fulfillmenttherapy.org or check out the things in the show notes and you can find other places to find us. And as always, please share those things as well so that we can continue to grow and continue to help others and continue to build strong families through personal growth. All right, let's go back to what we're talking about today. Safe and secure bonds. This is so foundational, like I mentioned, because this bond forms that bedrock of this thriving family dynamic. What does that mean? Well, when we have that, we're able to create more stability and trust and emotional security for every family member. Today, we're going to talk about some practical steps that you can take to strengthen it. Especially as we are approaching these summer months. This is the prime time to create more connection as well as heal from our past wounds. All right, my friends, why does a safe, secure bond matter? These are so important because they create healthy relationships and this overall sense of well-being. I want you to think about this example for a second. Think about a time when you felt really safe and secure, and think about the relationships that you had. Like for me, it was an aunt that she very much helped me feel special and unique, and she took the time to connect with me, and I felt very special. And in that situation, my confidence was able to grow, and I felt more resilient and happy and capable of handling the ups and downs of being in middle school or those different times of life. Like I could weather it more. I had more resilience. Now, can you picture that relationship in your own mind? Hopefully it was with a caregiver, like a mother or father, but anyone really that provided that really safe, secure relationship. And as you think about that, I just want you to think how much better you are able to communicate and talk about your feelings more freely, and how there was that greater support in that relationship and how that got you through some of your challenges. Well, this is exactly what we're looking to do with our current family members. Despite all the chaos, despite all of the things going on, how can we build that just a little bit more within our family units? Because remember, when we do, we are building trust and resilience and this greater intimacy or this connection within that family unit. And this is how family members thrive. I think I shared this quote before, but Michael J. Fox said, "Family is not an important thing, it's everything." I personally very much believe that. Family is my everything, even though there are many times a day when I wish I was completely alone. I'm going to be completely transparent here because that is the truth for me. And yet, it's worth it. All of those hours, all of that frustration, all of the ups and downs, it is so worth it. I want you to imagine a family where there's that mutual respect and trust that forms that foundational core in their relationships. Imagine where the kids feel safe talking about their feelings and knowing that their parents are going to listen without judgment. When this happens, that is where emotional intelligence grows and where that resilience grows that I mentioned a minute ago, especially as challenges come up. Because as we know, every family unit is going to have its challenges. That's part of life. But do they have that emotional intelligence and that resilience to handle those challenges? Well, if they don't, I'm going to give you a few tips in the next few minutes to help you create a more secure bond. But before I jump right into those tips, I want to talk about how exactly that bond helps us thrive. What this does is it fosters a sense of belonging and acceptance. Like, do your children feel like they belong? Do they feel accepted? Or maybe growing up, did you feel like you belonged? Did you feel accepted? Were you able to be your authentic self without feeling rejected? If not, then you may struggle even today with effective communication or conflict resolution or problem solving. You might struggle giving yourself that grace, and you might have troubles in your family with that unity. But if you want those deeper connections and those stronger relationships, then this is where you can start with these tips that I'm going to give you today. And if you're seeing a therapist, you say, I want to focus for a while on building more safe and secure bonds within my family unit. Brad Henry said, "Family is the compass that guides us. It's the inspiration to reach great heights and our comfort when we occasionally falter." Are we that for our family? Are you that for your spouse or your kids? Are you that comfort and are you that inspiration for them? Now, don't heap on the shame here because we are all human and we have massive flaws, but just in that little way, are you able to be that for your family members? I know of a family that I often think about where they share a lot of traditions, and I think this has been like for generations, actually. They cook together, they share stories together, and they have those family rituals that increase their family's sense of identity and belonging, and it is just beautiful to watch. I kind of want to be that creepy therapist that just looks in their window and just watches how they do it. Like, how is it that you stay so patient in the middle of all that chaos? How do you do these things? Like, I love observing people that have nailed different things, and they really have nailed that safe, secure bond. And this is one of the ways that I've noticed it, just that those family rituals. And that's something maybe that you could start with. I actually talked about that in the last episode, and especially moving forward with summer. So as we're approaching these summer months, how can we take those intentional steps to strengthen that bond? One thing you can do is you can plan activities that promote quality time together. Just like I said last episode, this could be game nights or shared hobbies. For example, just yesterday, my husband and I took the kids. Our older son, he just started tennis for the first time, and none of us know how to play tennis, but it's important for us to have shared hobbies. And when one person is actually willing to do something instead of complaining and they are eager to learn more, we really try to jump on those things because that doesn't always happen. So you want to take advantage of them while they're there. And it was really interesting. Like in your mind at night, you're so tired and you're like, oh, I just do not want to go play tennis because I'm exhausted. Like I had just worked 10 hours that day and they were on spring break and it was just a lot. I just felt like there's no way. But then I just said in my mind, you know what? We can do anything for 1 hour and I can still get to bed at a reasonable time. So we just said, okay, right after chores, let's just go play tennis nearby. We're just going to be gone for 1 hour and then we'll come right back. And it was amazing how much more energy we had as soon as we got outside into the sunshine. And we were only playing for 30 to 45 minutes. We ended up playing for exactly 45 minutes, but at about 30 minutes, we felt like pretty good and content. So I think sometimes we make it into this big thing in our mind when it really could just be 30 minutes. Or that connection with a child could just be 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be big. Like even this morning, I'm really trying to get a lot of things done before we're traveling in just a couple days. And so I needed to work more hours. But my son came in and he looked at me in the eyes and he said, Mom, can you just eat breakfast with me? And I do intermittent fasting. It just works better for me right now. And I didn't have the time to, I thought, but I realized in that moment that he was coming to me, he was being open and authentic, and he wasn't to that point where he was yelling or screaming or anything. He was just genuinely sharing what he needed. And luckily, in this moment, I saw that as this plea for connection. And so I did. I took the time to do it, and it's going to be fine. And I feel so much better for having done that. So that's what I'm talking about. Those little bite-sized things where you can create those connections. This can also be anything where you have meaningful conversation or any sort of emotional connection. It doesn't have to be huge, but in our family, it's things like walks after dinner, or it's all eating together at dinner time at the table without tech. This can also be something like daily check-ins or talking about your hopes and your dreams. This can be talking about what interests you, whatever those things are, and that can lay the groundwork for fulfilling and also this thriving summer season. So we're just focusing on the next month or even the next day, but with that focus overall of the summer. Another family I really admire sets aside dedicated time each week for a family adventure. So that can be exploring, that can be trying new activities, or like I mentioned the last episode, even just volunteering together. That intentional time will foster those connections and create those cherished memories that they will remember for years. All right, maybe you are the person that has a lot of past wounds that prevent that connection. Or maybe you have a little bit of baggage that makes it hard to connect with your loved ones. You are not alone. So many adults are in this situation. Maybe you grew up with that lack of safety and security, and maybe you really haven't addressed those past wounds. Well, my friends, I am here to implore you to address them and stop running, because it's essential for building healthy relationships with your spouse and children. When we find a way to process this pain that is stored in your body, you learn through that greater self-compassion and forgiveness. But it does not come by running. as my clients can all attest. When we address unresolved issues from our past, you're really able to create that space for greater intimacy and vulnerability and connection. This is why therapy is so important. Are you thinking like, oh, I don't really like therapy. I don't want this or this or that. Well, essentially, you are saying then greater intimacy and connection and vulnerability and deeper meaning in my relationships and communication is not that important to me. I'd rather avoid it and not have that safe, secure relationship because it's uncomfortable. I don't want to go there. Now, maybe that's not exactly what you're telling yourself, but in a sense, you are. Ryan North says it this way. I love these next two quotes, but Ryan says this: our brains are wired for connection, but trauma rewires them for protection. That's why healthy relationships are difficult for wounded people. And this one, I cannot pronounce the name, but I'll try, is by Yania Van Zandt. I probably butchered that. But this is so good, even though it's a little bloody. You'll see what I mean. Not like inappropriate, just visually bloody. Until you heal the wounds of your past, you are going to bleed. You can bandage the bleeding with food, with alcohol, with drugs, with work, with sex. And just an interjection here, maybe it's not even that for you. Maybe it's busyness, productivity, to-do lists, whatever it might be. Like we all have our thing. Maybe it's sugar. Anyway, let me read that again. Until you heal the wounds of your past, you are going to bleed. You can bandage the bleeding with food, with alcohol, with drugs, with work, with sex. But eventually, it will all ooze through and stain your life. You must find the strength to open the wounds, stick your hands inside, pull out the core of the pain that is holding you in your past, and make peace with them. So I was saying that visual is kind of gruesome almost of you like sticking your hands in your wounds. And yet that's essentially what it does take. Unless we find that strength to heal from those things, we'll stay stuck in the past. And we will try to cope with other things to manage that pain, but it won't work. And you've probably seen that in your own life right now. We all have our things. I've been off of sugar for a couple months because I recognized that I was using that as a major coping mechanism. And I was not okay with that, especially as it started to cause other health problems over time. So I'm trying to do it in better ways. As I was reading these quotes, I was just thinking of my clients and knowing that if they were here on this podcast, they would agree with me in this way. Like the deeper that we go to heal our past wounds, the more we're able to move from that protection and that defensiveness to connection and openness. And that is exactly what my clients find as they work through these things. They're suddenly able to be more authentic and open and vulnerable instead of so guarded. A secure bond is a cornerstone of a thriving family, and it really does provide a safe haven for love to flourish and grow. Healing past wounds is essential for building that foundation of trust and intimacy in your present relationships. My friends, when you prioritize the safety and security of your family relationships, you will pave the way for deeper connections and greater fulfillment. All right, I'm going to just give you a few tips and 1% ways to build secure bonds. Really rapid fire here. And these are just a few suggestions. Schedule regular family meetings and check in with each other to discuss any concerns or challenges. Maybe you can practice actively listening and being empathetic to validate your family members' feelings and experiences. Create those rituals and traditions that foster that sense of belonging and togetherness this summer. Set aside some dedicated family time for things like game nights and focus on positivity and laughter and fun. I feel like I need to mention this every single episode, but really do that 5-to-1 ratio that the Gottmans talk about. 5 positive to 1 negative. Focus on that positivity and change that culture in your home. And that also helps build more secure bonds. Schedule time to check in as a couple, maybe daily, to share your thoughts and your feelings and your experiences without distractions. So put aside the phone, put aside the TV, put aside the laptop, whatever it is, and just focus on each other. Again, this could be even just 5 minutes, staring into each other's eyes and just talk about the day. Talk about your feelings and validate one another as you do so. And last but not least, if you have not been to therapy, please go. Learn healthy coping mechanisms that can support your family's emotional well-being, especially your children, so they can grow up with that safe, secure bond. So in conclusion, my friends, to all these great tips for building that stronger bond, if you want to increase that connection with your spouse and children, prioritize open communication and that emotional connection. Prioritize healing from past wounds and validate each other in their feelings and make sure it is a safe, secure home for them. Take ownership in your own role so that you can help each family member create deeper connections, greater fulfillment, and the realization of their higher self. Pave the way by showing the example, by doing those things yourself. I know those tips are going to help you, my friends, as you apply them, as always. Again, this does not have to be a big checklist item, but this deeper desire for safety, for security, for connection, for love, for fulfillment. And of course, we all want these things. Best of luck, my friends. Until next time. Hey friends, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, chances are someone else would too. Would you take 30 seconds to share this with a friend who's looking for greater family fulfillment? And while you're sharing, tell me what you think about the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It refuels me when I hear this podcast is helping you. No matter what your house or your hair looks like. I'll meet you back here every Monday and Thursday morning for more episodes. Until then.